Hey everyone, this is Red Pill Mormon, Mark Lichtenwalter, coming to you again on this Sunday, the 7th day of December 2025, the day that shall live in infamy. If you don't know what that means, it is Pearl Harbor Day. So I'm back in my man cave again, my rolling man cave, and we're going to be covering page 158 of chapter 16, the creation of plants and animals, in the book Mysteries of Creation by Ogden Kraut. That's OGDEN, Ogden Kraut, KRAUT.com. You can find his books to read for free at ogdenkraut.com. So there are two quotes in this on this page. One is by Parley P. Pratt in the Key to Theology, and the other one is Heber C. Kimball in the Journal of Discourses. Both very excellent books. I do enjoy Parley's thoughts on things, although he does say maybe they came from the sun, and I don't know. If you're not a celestial being, you don't, in my opinion. Well, it's a little more than my opinion, but for now, just consider it my opinion. If you're a celestial being, you can dwell on a sun, um, within the atmosphere of the sun. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Visions of the Elohim on YouTube or here on TikTok, and I'll give you the links to that, or at least you can find those videos in the conclusion part of this particular video. But today I'm headed up to Jerome, Idaho, to a cheese place that needs the carbon dioxide for the process of something with the cheese. I have no idea. Anyway, and then I'll be coming back down and delivering to Spanish Fork later on today or tomorrow. It just depends. I still have 5 hours to go until I get up to Jerome, Idaho. So anyway, this begins a new week, and I'll try to put one out every day, a page a day. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy this, and let's get on to listening to the video, and then I'll give my commentary on it. Thank you for watching. See you in a minute.
Creation of Plants and Animals, page 158 of chapter 16 of Mysteries of Creation. By Ogden Kraut. A royal planter now descends from yonder world of older date, and bearing in his hand the choice seeds of the older paradise, he plants them in the virgin soil of our new-born earth. They grow and flourish there, and, bearing seed, replant themselves, and thus clothe the naked earth with scenes of beauty and the air with fragrant incense. Ripening fruits and herbs at length abound. When lo, from yonder world is transferred every species of animal life. Male and female, they come, with blessings on their heads, and a voice is heard again, be fruitful and multiply. Earth, its mineral, vegetable and animal wealth, its paradise prepared, down comes from yonder world on high a Son of God, with his beloved spouse. And thus a colony from heaven, it may be from the sun, is transplanted on our soil. Parley P. Pratt, Key to Theology, 5th edition, pages 49 and 50. After the earth was made, then there was a garden spot selected, and the Lord commanded some of his associates to go and plant it, and to cause all kinds of vegetation to grow, and fruits of every description. Some suppose the Lord commanded all these things to come out of the earth. Yes, he did, after the seeds were put in the earth, and he blessed the earth, and the vegetation that was in the earth. When all these things were done, the garden was beautified, and made pure and clean and holy and sanctified, and then the next thing was to bring forth the animal creation, but the animals were not brought there until the vegetation was planted and grown. Heber C. Kimball, Journal of Discourses, Volume 8, pages 243.
So I'm right at the top of Soldier Summit right now. It's a nice, balmy 40 degrees. And let's see, the elevation is 7,477 feet. So, anyway, this first quote by Parley P. Pratt, I really enjoy it. I mean, it kind of shows what he was thinking at the time. I especially like the fact that he mentions um, that Michael and his beloved spouse came down from above, which is part of the Adam God doctrine. If you believe the King James Version of the Bible, um, they were made here, but Brigham Young correctly taught, as he learned from Joseph Smith, that they were made on an older Earth, quite the same way that we are made, actually. Um, the Bereshit account of Genesis is the first creation, the very first creation, and how that was done. It does not reflect the creation of how this earth was created or organized. One other thing, like people, they tend to think, as well, from what I've heard, people in the church will be like, oh yeah, God brought this earth and created it from other planets. I don't know if that's true, but why can't it be true that the laws of the universe created the planets and that the Elohim, with their technology, actually just put the orbits in the correct um, orbit around the sun, so that and took the planets that were here and put them in the correct um, orbit with the correct 23.5 degree axis swivel tilt so that we could have seasons and all of that fun stuff. Like, to organize is what the word create means in Hebrew. So just to organize the planets, in their correct order so that these things could happen correctly. So I don't know. It's just, excuse me, I'm not privy to exactly how all of that happened. And you know what? It doesn't really matter um, for Zion to be redeemed about these things. But I do think that it's interesting that Parley P. Pratt knew that Michael and his beloved spouse came from a celestial sphere. They did not come because Jehovah breathed them into existence. And we know that partly because Michael was in the heavens when the Elohim, under the direction of God the Eternal Father, instructed Jehovah, our Elohim, our exalted one, to bring Michael, who was a celestial being, down to this earth. And Michael's the one that named the plants and the animals and the trees and all of that. He organized creation, which was his role because this is his planet. He was a redeemer on an older earth who was a celestial being. The same way that Jesus Christ will become an Adam and has already been named an Adam. He's the new Adam for the new earth. Anyway, let's get on to the next part. The next quote is by Heber C. Kimball in the Journal of Discourses. So Heber C. Kimball's just basically saying that the plants were brought here first. You know, we talk about in science in these last days. We talk about how we can terraform, how we can terraform an Earth. Why can't the gods do that? Like, if we understand how that can be done, they understand it better than we do. You know. But part of terraforming an Earth is to create or to organize plants that would be able to be here to create, um, an atmosphere. And maybe the dinosaurs were placed here first as all part of all of that to get the Earth ready. I don't know. I do know that we do have um, fossilized records of dinosaurs with soft bone marrow and or softer skin tissue, stuff that should have been completely destroyed in the amount of time that they talk about the dinosaurs existing billions of millions or whatever years ago. But these are theories that um, are produced by individuals um, who do not want God to be God, and they want to have a different idea or a different theory. And there are individuals who have been on this earth. So we talk about the three Nephites and John and others who have been on the earth for a very long period of time that are translated. But in the book of Enoch, it talks about 200 who are cast down to the earth that were angels that had bodies. And like we know that Abraham was visited by Jehovah and two angels that had bodies before the resurrection. And then also, I think it's in the book of Moses that talks about that God, our Father, asked who would go down, and he asked the noble and great ones who were souls. And then later on in that chapter, it talks about the soul being the combination or the union of a spirit and a body. So these noble and great ones that are being mentioned here actually had souls, a body before before they came down on the earth, and they were asked if they would go down. You know, so this goes right along with what God showed me was that um, each earth um, we gain a specific level of resurrection, and we're damned in that level of resurrection unless we're exalted, meaning we cannot progress unless we put off that flesh. Now, Michael progressed where he didn't have to put off that flesh because he had been a redeemer on an older earth. So he continues on to go no more out, meaning not to ever die again. And he was placed on this earth as a celestial being with his wife, and they descended from a celestial level of glory down to a terrestrial level of glory, and light infused their veins, but as they partook of the fruit of this earth, they fell, and then they fell, and they were able to descend to a celestial level and have children, us. So, but Jesus Christ, he'll never have to die again, but he will be following the same footsteps as Adam, where he will not go no more out, meaning he will not ever die again. Um, and in fact, my life, this is the last time. Um, well, this is not the last time. So when I die as the witness, I will be raised again on the third day as a resurrected being. And then, in order for me to progress to the level of becoming a redeemer, I have to put off my body like Jesus put off his body before he came to this world. And then on the new world, I'll become a redeemer, and I will have to put off my body one last time to fulfill the atonement of that world. And then when I take my body back again, I will not go out. I will not die again. So I know some people are like, oh, I want to get to the level where I go no more out. Well, you can get to that level if you are obedient, um, if you not only say and learn and say the scriptures and the commandments of God, but also do them. And but you have to go through being a redeemer if you're a man. you have to go through being a redeemer. It's different for women. I'm not completely privy to what it entails to be a woman. I do know that there are different levels of glory for the women as well. So, anyway, and part of the reason why the father put my wife with me, even though we were strangers, is because my wife was at the level where she could ascend with me as I ascend. So, yeah, we got married like 20 days after we met in person, and we only knew about each other for a couple months online. And yeah, if you don't know the story, I've talked about it in other videos. But anyway, but the plants and animals were placed here first, and who knows how long it took to terraform this earth. Um, could have been 1,000 years, it could have been 10,000 years. You know, I believe that the new earth that is spoken of in the book of Revelations is already known and already being prepared to a point by the Elohim. And but maybe that'll happen in the millennium. But we do know that in the millennium, um, the new earth will be created. And I think it's interesting. So Michael did not partake of the fruit of an earth between his last resurrection until he descended and became an Adam. Jesus Christ in section 120, or no, it's section 29 of the Doctrine and Covenants actually talks about a great sacrament meeting that will happen, and that Jesus said before, when he came back and he ate the loaves and the fishes, but he said he would not partake of the fruit of the earth until um, until a certain time, right? And then it talks about this great sacrament meeting in Doctrine and Covenants section 29, the one that talks about, you shouldn't um, use wine for sacrament unless buy it from your enemies, but you should make it of your own make, which does not mean that we drink water. There is a very powerful symbolism to the wine being the sacrament, in that when the grapes are crushed under the press, they let forth their juices, which are sweet and pure. And then when you mix the skins of the grapes with the wine, there is yeast on the skins, and the yeast will eat the sugars, and there will come a time when it is not safe to drink, right? But through the yeast eating the sugars of the grape, it creates alcohol, and eventually the alcohol is safe to drink again. It's not safe to get drunk on because you're not supposed to get drunk, right? But but there's a lot of countries around the world, and have been, that didn't know how to purify water, so they just drank wine or whatever other concoction that they could figure out how to make, because the higher elevations didn't, or the higher latitudes didn't have, um, you know, wine or grapes. They used other things like potatoes or grain or barley or whatever to make these drinks. And it was safer in many cases to drink those drinks than to partake of the water, which may have had bacteria and stuff in it. But the alcohol actually purified these beverages so that people could drink them and not get sick after a certain period of time. I think it's like a week. Like, you can go to the grocery store and look at the grapes. In fact, I've got some right here. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a white substance on this grape. That's yeast. When you crush the grape, that's a good grape. When you crush the grape and you mix in that yeast with the grape, the juices of the grape, it will actually, um, when you strain out the leads and you strain out the pulp or whatever, the juices can be put into a container, and then um, the yeast will actually eat the sugars of the grape, and it will create alcohol, which purifies the drink. In the same way, Jesus Christ takes us as pure individuals who become corrupted because of the yeast and the leaven of this world, if you will, and he makes us pure again, like the wine is pure. They did not have a process of pasteurization until into the 1800s. So this whole idea that some people ignorantly give that new wine is grape juice, no, it is not. New wine, according to the Hebrew understanding, is any wine that has been pressed and is under a year old. After a week, the fermentation process is complete, and you can let wine age. That's new wine. Anything older than a year old is old wine. It's been aged. But anything, um, under a year old is it's called new wine. So, and the only time you get grape juice is when you freshly press it, because as soon as you crush it, and you have to do this before it dries out, before the grapes dry out, because they don't last forever. Um, there's a small amount of time when you can actually drink the grape juice without it fermenting. But after a week, the process of fermentation is over. Um, Maybe it's 2 weeks, I can't remember. My son, who he was like 14 at the time, he was like, I'm going to make some wine because he was interested in how that happened. And like we had the bottles and everything, and we made it, and we were scared to drink it because we're like, I don't know, it's going to make us sick. And it didn't make us sick. It was actually good wine. So we used it for sacrament, which is what we should be using for sacrament, not water with all of its bacterias and all of its things, and heavy metals and whatever else is in the water that we're drinking. But the wine is pure because of the alcohol. So, anyway, yeah, I that's all I have to say about this chapter, this page actually. There's one more page left in this chapter, and then we'll get on to the next chapter. And thank you for watching, everyone. And I'll try to put out more tomorrow. We'll do the next page tomorrow. I think it's page 159 of chapter 16. If you want to read this stuff for yourself, and you don't want to wait for me to read it to you, head on over to ogdenkraut.com, OGDENKRAUT.com. There's over 70 books there that he wrote down about restoration theology, and to preserve the first fruits of the restoration, which have been lost. Like in order to become more popular with the world, they continue. They don't treat these things with seriousness, and like over time, they've lost it. The church has lost these things. And then they tell you, don't go and read the Journal of Discourses because it's not right. And like, but they don't trust the members of the church to actually go and read them and get revelation for themselves, which is wrong. They're actually damning your progression by doing those things, or by excommunicating people like me who have done those things simply because I believed in the Adam God doctrine, which I'd gotten revelation on. But oh, that's not true. That's just Brigham Young was a heretic. Yeah, there's 7 deadly heresies of Brigham Young, and the Adam God doctrine is one of the main ones. But out of the other side of their mouth, they'll say the prophet can never lead you astray, and it's like, okay, well, which is it? Can the prophet The president of the church, Brigham Young, who was a prophet and the leader of the church from the 1846 or 47 all the way until 1877. August 29th of 1877 is when he died. Longer than anybody else. You know, and now they'll look back and they'll say, oh, Brigham, he's just a man of his time. And he led the church astray in false doctrine. It was not his opinions that he was promoting from the pulpit. Either that or he was leading the church in truth. And it's your modern leaders that don't want you to see the truth because they want to be more popular with the world. You know, I don't know what to tell you, but you can continue to think that you're going to ride into the pearly gates on the you know the tell whatever on your prophet's shoulders or whatever, but like when you get to the pearly gates, you're going to have to stand for yourself. It's not going to be, well, so and so told me, because that's all you're going to get is, doesn't the scripture say not to trust in man? You know, if you lack wisdom, ask God. Scriptures are not for private interpretation. And then finally, depart from me, you never knew me, because you knew all about certain things, but based on your opinions, your ideas, and what other people have taught you, but you didn't get revelation for yourself. So, anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I'll get it posted first on TikTok at Red Pill Mormon, second on YouTube at Zion's Redemption Radio Network, and then finally on Rumble. And I'm gonna put the premieres for 6 p.m. Monday or Sunday through Friday, and then take my Shabbat off, because I actually do believe that the proper day of rest is the one that always has been, and it was never changed, which is Friday night to Saturday night, sundown to sundown. Jesus Christ being raised on the first day of the week, which was Sunday, or actually it was Saturday according to our understanding. Saturday, shortly after the weekly Sabbath was finished, shortly after sundown on Saturday, that's when he was actually resurrected. The whole Christian world in their apostasy have accepted lies, and the LDS Church accepts the traditions of men instead of going to God and finding out what the truth of everything is. So I've done it. I know what the truth is, and I build myself upon the rock of revelation, not the sands of speculation. Excuse me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, everyone. God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.